Hey everyone, Zian over here from Nintendo Life, and today we're here to share with you our review of Pac-Man World Re-PAC on the Nintendo Switch. Now, this review was originally written by Mitch Vogel for NintendoLife.com, but was reworked into this video by me. By the late 1990s, the golden age of the arcade was but a dim and distant memory, and along with it went the Pac-Man fever of the early 80s. But Namco, of course, couldn't let little Pac-Man fall by the wayside, and decided to reinvent him as the star of a 3D platformer. After stumbling with the eventually scrapped Pac-Man Ghost Zone, Pac-Man World eventually came together and proved itself to be a solid and successful title on the original PlayStation. Now, Namco Bandai is bringing back the pack once again with Pac-Man World Re-PAC. And though this new release isn't a shining example of everything a 3D platformer can be, it can still make for an enjoyable experience. The story opens up with the Pac family putting the finishing touches on the decorations for Pac-Man's birthday while he's out and about running errands, when they suddenly get accosted by the nefarious ghosts and get whisked away. However, these ghosts were sent by the evil robot Pac-Man to kidnap Pac-Man and not his family. So when Pac-Man gets home and realizes what happened, he quickly sets out on a quest to rescue them and put Pac-Man in his place. Gameplay in Re-PAC provides an interesting take on 3D platforming. It's clear that this was designed at a time when the genre was still very much finding its footing. Rather than exploring large overworlds with a freely controlled camera, you traverse a series of mostly linear levels that are viewed with a fixed camera, somewhat like playing a 2D platforming level that gives you a little more freedom of movement. It's more like Super Mario 3D World than it is Super Mario 64, but that's not to say that it feels like a lesser experience for taking the level design in a different direction. The goal of every stage is to simply break the Pac-Man statue at the end, but the route you take to get there is typically full of obstacles, enemies, and collectibles tucked away on brief side trails. Most foes can be defeated with a simple butt bounce, which also can be used to break certain objects and to give Pac-Man a little more height on his jumps. And for those who struggle with making some of the more precise jumps many levels demand of you, Pac-Man has a helpful flutter jump, sort of like Yoshi does in the Mario games, that can give you a little more hang time to make it across gaps. Rounding out his moveset is a very helpful spin dash-like move that can be used to destroy enemies, charge certain platforms, or give a burst of speed to get up steep slopes. There are a decent amount of gimmicks to help each level feel distinct from the next, which helps to keep Pac-Man World Re-PAC feeling fresh throughout its relatively short runtime. One level has you dodging cannon fire from various pirate ships, while another has you running through a terrifying clown funhouse. And even though you can reach the end of any level in just a few minutes if you're rushing through it, there's a lot of fun to be found in picking up the various collectibles along the way. You'll often come across fruit doors that need a certain fruit to open, usually requiring you to explore a side route or backtrack a bit. There are also switches that you can hit that will modify some part of the level, potentially causing hidden platforms to appear or a door to open. But even though we could appreciate the difference in level design that the game offers, even when they shared a common theme, we found the levels in general to be a bit unimaginative. After you've played a few stages, you start to know where you can expect to find a hidden fruit, and it often feels like the stage gimmicks unique to each level take a back seat to the slopes, doors, and charge platforms that you see in every level. Additionally, the difficulty remains flat for much of the experience. Part of this is likely due to the non-linear nature of the level progression. You're offered 3 worlds worth of levels right off the bat, but it has the effect of feeling that you're not necessarily progressing much when most of the stages are equally suited to the player's first. Now, this isn't to say that Re-PAC is boring. The controls feel tight and the level designs have enough challenge that they feel satisfying to complete. The problem is that this is the kind of game that feels like it's perpetually stuck in first gear, like it's waiting to show you more complex levels and mechanics eventually, but they just never materialize. Still though, there's something notably alluring about a platformer that doesn't try to knock your socks off with outstanding effects or mind-bending stage designs, instead focusing on just a few basics that it does really well. Grabbing a power pellet and clearing a room of ghosts feels great no matter how many times you do it here, and you can't match that feeling of finally snagging the last collectible letter in Pac-Man's name that had eluded you on your first run of a stage. Bosses are incredibly goofy, with a shmup-themed Galaxian fight being a big standout for us. And the whole adventure is over just before the point where it overstays its welcome. Now, on the presentation side of things, Re-PAC isn't as extensive of an overhaul as the somewhat recent Crash and Spyro remasters, but it does a solid job of cleaning up the PS1 visuals and updating them for a new generation, and to get around the sadness surrounding the rights to Miss Pac-Man, which hopefully get resolved someday, but here we are. The worlds have a brighter, sharper, and more coherent look than they did before. Sure, it may not feel like much of a reimagining of a 20-year-old game, but it's clear that this also was much more than a simple remaster. Bandai Namco did a good job of preserving the spirit of the original while buffing out the rough edges. Performance for the Switch version is predictably spotty, although there's a helpful toggle between performance and resolution. In resolution mode, you're looking at a rather unstable 20 to 25 FPS experience, while performance mode substantially boosts the frame rate to what appears to be near 60 FPS, with some minor drops when things get busier. And I do want to point out, this is something that I didn't notice on my playthrough, so most of the gameplay that we're going to be seeing in this video is the 20 to 25 FPS, but I did try to sneak in some 60 FPS here and there, so you can really see the difference that it makes. Now, what's more fascinating is that the resolution drop for the performance mode is almost imperceptible, to the point that you can't help but wonder how such a minor change is causing a massively improved frame rate. If you do end up scooping this game up, we'd recommend the first thing you do playing is to switch to performance mode in the settings. Now, the soundtrack doesn't have many memorable tracks, but it does a great job of matching the tone and theme of each world as needed. Music inspired by sea shanties plays in the beach world levels, while you'll hear thermins and lasers when romping around the space world. Mixed into all of this are various classic sounds and samples of tracks from Pac-Man's arcade heyday, which helps tie it all together and can make it feel less generic than it otherwise might. Pac-Man World Re-PAC isn't a game that we'd suggest you rush out and buy immediately, but it does a good job of reviving a decent 3D platformer for a modern audience. Tight controls, lots of collectibles, and enjoyable level design ultimately outweigh minor performance hiccups and a general lack of imagination. If you're not a fan of platforming or Pac-Man, nothing here is going to change your mind, and we'd suggest you pass on this one. But if you like classic 3D platformers, Pac-Man World Re-PAC will absolutely prove itself worth your time, even if it doesn't impress like the best in the genre can. We here at Nintendo Life give Pac-Man World Re-PAC on the Nintendo Switch a 7 out of 10. Now, if you'd like to check out our full written review, you can find that along with more news and information on Pac-Man World Re-PAC and just Pac-Man in general over at nintendolife.com. Feel free to let us know in the comments down below your interest on this remake. Let us know if you're going to be picking it up, if you already have and have been playing it into the ground. Let us know your thoughts about it in the comments down below. And of course, if you enjoyed this video and you want to see more videos like this, and you aren't subscribed to the channel, then why don't you repackage that subscribe button in a form that you enjoy, and then ring that notification bell to be notified whenever we put up new videos. Thank you all so much for watching, and thank you to Mitch Vogel for spending so much time with Pac-Man for this review. I'm Zion from Nintendo Life, stay safe out there, and we will see you all next time.